Title: The excluded guest at my wife's sister's nuptials. A security officer halted me and barred my entry. "Your name isn't listed," he stated icily. I noticed my wife and her mother observing from afar, chuckling, but I held my tongue and departed. The following day, they approached me, eyes swollen with tears, pleading for assistance for a reason I never could have anticipated. Chapter 1. The barred entrance. The reception venue gleamed beneath opulent chandeliers, a place where extravagance wasn't merely showcased, it was wielded. I approached the doorway in my finest attire, holding a gift, resolved to remain courteous despite the strain with my wife's kin. But before I could cross the threshold, a guard raised his palm. His demeanor was stern, practiced. "Sir, I must stop you here. Your name isn't on the roster." I furrowed my brow, perplexed. There's got to be a mistake. I'm part of the family. He reviewed his clipboard with exaggerated precision. "No error. You're not listed. Entry denied." From across the polished foyer, I saw them, my wife and her mother, standing close, their laughter unmistakable. They weren't shocked by my exclusion. They had planned it. This was my wife's sister's wedding, a celebration of kinship, and I was the pariah. Humiliation seared my chest, a sharp sting tightening my throat. Every impulse urged me to protest, to cause a commotion, to declare my rightful place. Instead, I took a deep breath, pivoted, and walked away. No words, no confrontation, just quiet. Because sometimes quiet speaks louder than any outburst. Chapter 2. The crumbling facade. The wedding night should have been their triumph. Music, lights, champagne, all meticulously arranged to dazzle. But while they mocked me from the foyer, a tempest was brewing in the shadows. The murmur of trouble. The next morning, I sipped coffee in solitude when my phone vibrated. One missed call, then another. By the fifth, I ignored it. By the seventh, curiosity won. It was my wife's mother. Her voice trembled, not haughty as it had been at the wedding, but frantic, desperate. "Please, you must aid us. Something's gone horribly awry." I didn't respond immediately. I let her words fill the void. She spoke rapidly, disjointedly. The wedding expenses remained unpaid. The venue threatened lawsuits. Vendors had abandoned the event mid-reception. Whispers of deceit spread, and worst of all, the family's financial accounts were locked overnight. The shift in control. I listened as their world unraveled. The same people who had ridiculed me hours earlier were now powerless against unseen forces. In that moment, I realized their flawless world was built on hubris and oversight. One nudge in the right spot, and it all collapsed. The irony? They had excluded me to shame me. Now, they were the ones outside, pleading at my doorstep. The hook. I let her speak until she dissolved into sobs. Then I said only, "Strange. Last night, my name wasn't on your list. Today, it seems I'm the only name you need." I ended the call. The silence that followed was sweeter than any speech at their celebration. Chapter 3. Pleading for grace. By afternoon, the dam broke. First my wife, then her sister, then her father, all contacting me, their voices laced with fear. The pride they had worn like a shield at the wedding had vanished, leaving only desperation. The cascade of regrets. My wife appeared at my door, tears streaming. No guards, no mocking giggles now, just quivering hands grasping mine. "Please, Ian, I didn't foresee this. We were wrong. I was wrong. Help us fix it." Her sister arrived next, still in her bridal gown, makeup streaked, hair disheveled from weeping. She had spent her wedding night fielding calls from furious vendors, an enraged hotel manager demanding payment, and guests murmuring that the family was ruined. Finally, her mother, who had laughed as I was turned away, arrived. She didn't speak at first. She slumped into a chair, head in her hands, the burden of disgrace crushing her more than words could. The reality they faced. Their accounts weren't frozen by chance. Their pristine image was unraveling because someone had tugged at threads they hadn't noticed. Debts they ignored, partnerships they mishandled, legal duties they disregarded. For years, they believed their status would shield them, but status can't settle debts, and it can't stop the truth when it finally emerges. My silence, their downfall. I listened to their apologies. I watched their tears, but I said nothing. Because in that moment, I understood the silence I carried when I left the wedding was now the silence that unnerved them. Chapter 4. The truth exposed. Their tears and regrets washed over me. But what they didn't know was that this collapse wasn't random. It wasn't fate or chance. It was truth, honed into a weapon years ago, now slicing through their pride. The years they overlooked me when I married into their family, they never concealed their disdain. A self-made man with no lineage, running a humble business they deemed insignificant. They scoffed when I sought inclusion in discussions, smirked when I offered counsel, and sidelined me from decisions. But I had been observing, listening, learning. I knew their debts, their shaky alliances, their extravagant purchases draining their wealth. They hid it well from society, but numbers don't deceive. The safety net they forgot. They laughed when I was stopped at the wedding. But they forgot this. 2 years earlier, when their father's business faltered, my discreet investment kept it afloat. I had provided funds, connections, and agreements signed in their desperation, agreements granting me quiet authority. Clauses they never read, rights they never grasped. At the wedding, they mocked me as powerless. But legally, financially, they had already handed me the reins. Revealing the snare in my living room, I finally spoke, my voice steady. Do you know why your accounts are locked? Why vendors walked? Why the hotel demanded payment before the ceremony ended? They looked up, eyes wide, waiting. I placed a folder on the table, contracts, loan agreements, bank documents, each bearing their signatures. Because the lifeline you've been living on has always been mine. The room fell into a silence so thick it was nearly suffocating. The hook their laughter at the wedding had been public. Their disgrace now was private, but far deeper. Because nothing wounds the proud more than realizing the person they scorned held their survival all along. And I wasn't finished. Chapter 5. The retribution unfolds. The contracts lay across my coffee table like evidence at a trial. Every line, every clause, every signature told a tale they had ignored, until now. The turning of the tide. Her father lifted a page with shaking hands, eyes darting over words he had once dismissed as trivial. A personal guarantee, a repayment clause, a transfer of collateral rights. He looked at me, ashen. This can't be valid. I leaned back, composed, deliberate. It's entirely valid. You signed every page. You just didn't bother to read them, too busy mocking the man you thought was beneath you. The realization. My wife's mother clutched her necklace, her voice a murmur. You mean, all this time you— Yes, I interrupted smoothly. All this time, your perfect empire ran on funds I provided, secured against assets you didn't realize you'd pledged to me. My wife, silent until now, spoke, her voice frail. So, you could destroy us? I let the silence linger before replying. Not could, did. Her sister, still in her ruined bridal makeup, buried her face in her hands. Her brothers muttered oaths, but even they couldn't deny the truth before them. They had ridiculed me at the wedding, barring me as an outsider. But here, in my home, they were the outsiders, pleading for a place at a table I now controlled. The hook. I leaned forward, my voice low, steady, but sharp enough to slice. Last night, you laughed when the guard said my name wasn't listed. Today, the only list that matters is the one that shows who owns everything you thought was yours. And guess what? My name's the only one on it. Their silence was deafening. Chapter 6. The public disgrace. Private collapse wasn't enough for people like them. They lived by appearances, in whispers at gatherings, in who entered which venue, in who sat at the head table. That was their currency. So, their punishment had to be public. The stage they crafted. A week later, they held a reception dinner to salvage their image after the catastrophic wedding. A final effort to convince friends, relatives, and associates that all was well. Smiles forced, laughter staged, fine wine poured as if nothing had changed. But cracks were visible. Vendors knew. Staff whispered. Allies questioned unpaid debts. And I was there, too. Not barred by security, but invited. They needed me, hoping I'd play along to maintain their facade. The truth unveiled as the evening peaked. Her father rose to speak, his voice loud but his hands trembling as he held his glass. That's when I stepped forward, calm and composed. I didn't shout. I didn't raise my voice. I simply placed the folder of contracts on the table before the key guests. These documents reveal the truth. This family doesn't own what it claims. Their empire stands because I permitted it. Tonight, I'm withdrawing that permission. A stunned silence fell. Glasses paused midair. Murmurs spread across the hall. Allies leaned forward, examining the papers, recognizing the legal seals. My wife's mother gasped, paling as the reality sank in. Her sister's new husband withdrew his hand from hers, realizing the wealth he thought he'd married into was an illusion. Guests shifted, pulling out phones, already texting, spreading the disgrace like wildfire. Her father, who had mocked me at the gates, dropped his glass. The shatter echoed through the ballroom like a judge's gavel. The hook I turned, meeting their eyes one last time. At your wedding, you laughed when I wasn't on the list. Tonight, my name is the only one people will remember. I walked out, not in silence, but to the sound of 100 murmurs tearing their reputation apart. The aftermath, the reception night, became the fracture that split their world open. What I'd done before their allies couldn't be undone with denials or whispers. The damage was irreversible. The family's downfall within days. Word spread through business networks. Vendors refused dealings. Creditors demanded immediate repayment. Investors abandoned projects. Her father, once known for his commanding presence, became a shadow at meetings. Her mother, once a social queen, vanished from gatherings. Her sister's marriage collapsed almost immediately, her husband realizing the fortune he thought he'd gained was merely debts cloaked in pride. My wife silenced my wife. She remained the quietest. The woman who laughed as I was turned away now avoided my gaze. She didn't call or plead again. She knew there was nothing left to say. The truth had spoken louder than words. My rise. As for me, the man they once scorned as unworthy, my reputation soared. Business associates who witnessed the reception approached with offers. Closed doors opened swiftly. My name carried weight, not because I demanded it, but because I let patience and truth work for me. The lesson, humiliation, had been their tool. They used it at the wedding, thinking they could erase me with laughter and a locked gate. But they never realized arrogance builds fragile kingdoms. When they mocked me outside that hall, they gave me the perfect stage for retribution. Epilogue. Years later, time has clarified everything. The shame of that wedding, once so piercing, is now just a memory, a reminder of where I started, not where I ended. Their fate, the empire they once flaunted, never recovered. The company dissolved within 2 years, its assets sold to settle debts. Her father faded into obscurity, no longer the commanding voice of boardrooms. Her mother became a whisper in social circles, pitted as the woman who lost it all. Her sister's marriage didn't survive the scandal of that reception night. Abandoned, divorced, left with nothing. They mocked me for not being on their list, but they were the ones erased. Her silence. My wife never rebuilt what she lost. She tried at first to reach out, to explain, to ask for a way back. I never answered. Eventually, her calls ceased. I heard through others that she moved away, living quietly, no longer flaunting wealth or status. Her punishment wasn't just poverty, but the knowledge that her arrogance cost her everything. My life. Now I thrived. My investments grew. My reputation spread. Partners respected me not just for business acumen, but for the patience and precision with which I dismantled an empire of hubris. I built a new life, free from their toxicity, surrounded by those who valued respect over appearances, loyalty over status. The lesson that night at the wedding hall, when the guard said my name wasn't listed, I walked away in silence. But years later, history remembered one truth. I didn't need to be on their list. Because in the end, I owned the list. And that was the sweetest retribution of all. Was this retribution perfectly warranted? Share your thoughts on this tale in the comments below. Like the story if you believe this justice was deserved. Share it with someone who needs this energy. And subscribe to Lauren's Stories for more gripping tales of betrayal and reckoning. Because here, every deception meets its consequence, and every betrayal finds its shadow. Stay sharp, stay strong, and stay tuned.